So former CNN host Don Lemon was arrested Thursday evening in California for his alleged role in the protesters who went into a Minnesota church, yelled at the pastor because he was a member of ICE, and then left. Because they were not arrested at the time. Okay? They went in, yelled at the guy, and left. And the leaving part, right, not being physically there anymore, is very important. But Don Lemon was initially one of the people that Donald Trump blamed for this, although he did not, orchestrate it. He didn't organize it. He was there covering it for his podcast. So Trump wanted Lemon arrested. And initially they tried to do it. They brought charges against him, and the magistrate judge in Minnesota looked at him and laughed and said, "This is fake. No, I'm not going to do this. Get the hell out of here." So the charges fell apart. But now apparently they've decided, we don't care that the judge said we can't. We're going to do it anyway. And we don't know exactly what we're going to charge you with, but we're going to find something. And the irony here, of course, is that after Lemon had been reporting on this, because he was, right there with them, he even told reporters that he's like, they're going to find something to charge me on. They're going to literally create something to charge me with. So, I'm expecting them to eventually arrest me. And he was right. They did. Now, let's see if these stick. I have to imagine it's probably not going to end any differently than it did the first time. But this administration, we're not going to let things like legal orders get in our way when we're trying to criminally prosecute Donald Trump's political enemies. So we have to look at what the charges are against the other protesters, right? The people that did go into the church, the people that did yell some things, and then again, were no longer in the building shortly after that. They were charged with 3 separate things: conspiracy to deprive rights, interfering with religious freedom in a house of worship, and intimidation or obstruction of people participating in a service. None of those are real. Conspiracy to deprive rights of people exercising their freedom of religion. They were not depriving anyone of their rights. So right off the bat, and that's why I bring up they left. They were gone from the bed. They didn't stay there and say, you can't have church because we're just going to stay here forever. That didn't happen. So charge number 1, out the window. And I imagine, by the way, they're going to try to do the same thing to Don Lemon on these things. So the second one, interfering with religious freedom in a house of worship. They were not in any way interfering with the practice of a religion. That didn't happen. They were not there to attack the religion. They were there to expose the pastor. A pastor is not in and of itself as a human being the religion. So no, that charge is gone. Intimidation or obstruction of people participating in a service. The obstruction, maybe, but then again, is that a crime? I know that's what they've put on the charging documents, right? But is that a crime? Is that an actual real crime? If I walk in, because I'm Catholic or lapsed Catholic, whatever you want to call it, because I haven't been in decades. If I were to walk into church and Monsignor's up there and he's, doing his homily, and I stand up and I'm like, hey, stop that. I don't like the homily. All right, I'm out of here. Is that obstruction? Is that obstruction of people participating in a service? Because that would effectively be no different than what the protesters did. One of whom, by the way, happens to be a civil rights lawyer, so she knows her rights. No, that's not a crime for me to stand up and yell something in the middle of the church. And if it were, I gotta tell you, pretty much every non-Catholic denomination down here in the American South would be shut down every single Sunday. I mean, we've seen the videos. We know what goes on at some of these churches down here in the South. There's a lot of yelling. There's a lot of people getting up and dancing and all kinds of crazy crap. I'm not meaning to offend anybody's religion, so please don't take it as such. But what I'm saying is, why is it okay for a parishioner to have, outbursts in church, but not somebody who's not? How is one obstruction when it does interrupt service and the other is not? None of it makes any sense because these aren't real crimes. These are made up, weird thing. So none of these are going to stick. Somebody just cited a U.S. code in the comments here, 18 U.S. Code, Section 247, damage to religious property, obstruction of persons in the free exercise of religious beliefs. Sure, but were those people not allowed to express their beliefs? No. There was no actual, real, meaningful obstruction that took place. Was there a delay? Sure. Was there a restriction of any kind? No. So none of these people are going to go to jail, Don Lemon included. And I don't even know if they are charging Don Lemon with these same things, but I bring up those original charges against the first group of folks because I do believe it's going to be similar, but it's all going to fall apart, so none of it even matters. None of it even matters. Because it will fall apart, because this is obviously Donald Trump going after his political enemies. So even if the judge doesn't toss it out on its face, there is enough evidence to show that this was politically motivated, not having to do anything with an actual crime being committed by Don Lemon. He was exercising his rights as a journalist. The protesters were exercising their rights as protesters. Both protected under that same First Amendment that they're trying to take them down with. Thanks for watching, and if you are not already subscribed to the channel, please do so, and do not forget to like and comment and share widely among your friends.